The truth.
Okay, welcome back. And now that we've got our Spring application loaded up, let's show you what Spring actually does. Now, let's say, before I go any further, we're going to be doing, this is the main structure of a Spring application over here. And where we'll be doing most of our work is right here under the main Java over here in the source folder. Here is essentially where we have all our applications. Now you might be thinking it's inside the source folder. Not really there. We'll do it right here. Okay, so inside this package right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a little class over here. Now let's say we're making a game, right? And let's say for example I have a class over here called Character Creator, and it's used for creating characters, amazingly enough. Now Character Creator basically needs to have something where, let's say for example, I'm going to create several different types of characters. It could be human, it could be orc, it could be whatever. But the idea behind this Character Creator class is I want to use this class later on to essentially have a function where I can call, like for example, the speak function over here, and depending on whatever character was passed in, it would basically have that character speak. Now this is of course in Java called loose coupling, because I want to be able to pass in whatever object that needs to basically call the speak function. Okay, well, the only way I can guarantee that is with an interface and have every single character class inherit from this interface. Let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. So let's say, for example, I create a new class over here. I'm going to create a class for, every single type of character. So this is the human character, and the human character is going to be, let's say something, I need to guarantee that this class has a function called, talk, so that I can call it from the character creator function. I mean, the character creator class is what I meant to say, right? So this talk function needs to be able to return a string. I'm going to say return how's about, yeah. Okay. That was a bad example, but anyway, so let's say I have a talk function over here. So I'm going to do another type of character over here, just because that way you can see the difference. So I'm going to basically create another class called character orcs. So these are the orc characters, and I want to guarantee that I can hard code it over here, that they all have this public string talk over here. Let me just make sure I spelled that correctly. Yeah. Okay, so talk over here, and for orcs, when they talk, it's usually just a lot of shouting, so it's war. Okay, and there you go. That's my 40K reference right there. For those of you who play 40K, you know what I'm talking about. Now, the only way for this to happen, the only way to ensure that there's this talk function over there, and that all character classes actually inherit from this class, have this function, is to actually set up a contract. And one of the ways to do that is with an interface. So let's go ahead and create a new interface over here. And let's say this interface is called the iCharacter interface. Okay, so there you go. I'm going to create the iCharacter interface, and I'm going to say that the iCharacter interface has this function, string return type, and the function is called talk. That way, any class inheriting from the iCharacter interface will have to implement this. So if I say implements I character as such. Okay, and here same thing, implements I character. That way, this character creator class over here, I can actually have a whatchamacallit, an I character, an I character object. Let's call this character, okay? And therefore, I'm guaranteed when I call this dot character over here, I can basically call the talk function, and I know that no matter which class is passed in, I could actually have them talk. Okay, so maybe character creator is not a correct term for this class, but oh well, never mind, since I've already created it. So the only thing left to do right here is basically create a constructor that can properly pass in an object of this type. So I can basically say, let's go ahead and create a constructor over here. So character creator right there, and I'm going to pass in an I character object. Let's call this object. Okay, so I can say this dot character equals object. Simple as that. Okay, so there you go. So we have this character created class where I can use it for whichever character that's created, and I can have that character created class speak. I should have called this the character implementation class, but oh well, never mind. So over here, what I want to do is I'm going to comment this out real quick because I don't want you thinking that this is something to do with Spring yet. We're not talking about Spring at all so far, yeah? This is just good old-fashioned Java. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to create an object from the character creator class. And I'm just going to call this the my character object. Okay, equals new character creator, right? And now what I can do is I can actually pass in any type of object. So I can basically pass in a human character, character human, there you go. Okay, so if I pass in a human character and I say my character dot speak, okay, what happens here is if I save this and I run it, I get this. Oop, hello. I guess it would help if I actually print it out, because speak basically just returns let's see now. Speak basically returns, yeah, my apologies, I basically just called a void, didn't I? Okay, tell you what, let's go ahead and do this. I'll just hard code this. I should have actually passed it out, but you know what, I'll do that. So let's go ahead and put a string return type right there, and I'm going to return whatever the character talks. Okay, whatever this character speaks. So I'm gonna just output that. Sys out. Okay, gonna remove that and put the ending bracket right there. Okay, so I'm gonna save it and run it, and this is what I get. As you can see over here, because I passed in a human character, how's about you? Now I can do the same thing again. Notice I've not changed anything else. I'm just basically putting the character orc over there, and I just realized my phone is still on. I'm gonna switch it off. Okay, so I'm gonna just change that one line right there. So I'm gonna say character arc, and I'm gonna run the program again, and ta-da! It's war. So there you go. This is what you call loose coupling. Now here's the thing. If I had, like, let's say 100 character classes, there's character orc, human, elf, eldar, what have you. And what happens is then I need to manage all of this stuff. Well, guess what? That's where Spring comes in. Spring is basically a dependency injection framework, if you will, and it basically allows me to do away with this, so that I can actually create my char over here, and it will automatically instantiate with either an orc character or a human character as it sees fit. So how do we do that? Okay, step one. Spring needs to know what beans it needs to manage. So the first thing Spring does is, when it first sees the application, it scans through the entire source code and looks for classes that are considered beans. So how do you create a bean? Here we go. Things that we want to make a bean are things like this. So wherever I want Spring to manage, I basically annotate it with the component annotation. And component annotation comes from the Spring Framework .stereotype package. Okay, so that's how you have a component. So basically, if I want to make this a bean that Spring will manage, I mark it as component. And let's say I would like to do the same thing with the human character. So I want Spring to manage this as well. So I'm going to mark it as component. So Spring just needs to know which classes it needs to be aware of. And once it is aware of it, now it will basically start to fill in the blanks almost magically. It's like it knows where it's supposed to do things. Now, another thing is, I need to be able to wire up these classes. Okay, these classes need to be wired up somewhere. So whenever there's a reference to, let's say, for example, an iCharacter type class, that's where it will wire up this class to any instance of iCharacter over here in this class, inside the character creator class. So to enable this, I have to annotate this as auto wired. Ta-da! So now basically Spring is aware of all the beans that you have inside your application, and it knows that it needs to keep track of this. So anytime it needs to specify an iCharacter object, or basically assign an iCharacter object, it will basically automatically assign it from either here, this component class, or this component class, whichever one seems to fit the bill. But the only one that represents iCharacter over here would be this class right here that implements iCharacter. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish this application off. So in order for our application to do its thing, step 2, I need to create an application context object. So this run function over here, you'll notice this run function actually returns a application context. So think of it as an instance of your application. So let's go ahead and do that. So create an instance, application, I meant application context, and I'm going to call this the app. Okay, so I'm going to create an instance of my app over here, and I'm going to use this app to basically do my wiring for me. So here we go. I'm going to basically say I'm going to create an instance of my character creator class. So I'm going to call this my character, just like that. But here's the thing, I'm not going to say new character creator. I'm going to have Spring actually create an instance of that class for me. So I'm going to say app.getBean. GetBean. And it just needs one parameter, which is which bean would you like me to get. So I want the bean called character creator dot class. And there you go. Okay, now here's the thing. Notice I've just created an instance of character creator, and then I've called speak over here. Notice I have not instantiated any instance of the orc character or the human character. So Spring is going to manage all of these for me, and it will know which class to call and which one to call speak on. Let's take a look. So just like that. So remember, Spring is actually doing all the management over here. Let's go ahead and run it. and this is what I'll get. Ta-da! As you can see, it automatically created an instance of the human character. As you can see over here, it says how's about, yeah. Okay, so I didn't have to create the instance of the human character. And there you have it, folks. This is the core of the Spring framework. Spring is basically it's a dependency injection. So without having to do any classes, or without having to infer any classes, it was able to inject whatever dependencies it needed to basically call this function right here. Okay, so there you have it. That is the first step, or the first getting our hands dirty with Spring. Now in the next video, we're going to talk about how we can wire up more classes to become beans as well, and which one Spring will choose in the next video. So sorry, I don't know what happened to my tongue there. With that, I bid you adieu. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe. Also, check out the links below, and if you'd like me to cover something else, please leave a comment down below.